Hey, welcome back. I'm going to give you 3 pillars today for growing your success this year. This can work for anybody and it's going to work for you. Here it is, 3 pillars. So, number 1 is going to be limiting beliefs and mindset. This is key. This is what stops almost all people from succeeding. This is what really, to some degree, makes the most successful people is their mindset, which encompasses their limiting beliefs or really their lack thereof. When we talk about limiting beliefs, basically this is any belief where you feel like you can't do something, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a millionaire, what's going to stop you from doing that? It's going to be your limiting beliefs, right? You can say to yourself, well, I'm just not made for that. Or, that's too hard. Or it's like, oh, only like rich kids can do that thing. But it's like, those are all limiting beliefs, right? The minute you say, yeah, but you've lost the battle, right? Because you're giving your autonomy and your chances up to a limiting belief without even trying. Regardless if it can work or not, you're not even trying, and that's the important part. But first off, we need to understand, okay, what is like limiting beliefs? What is the mindset of a person? Okay, so basically you can understand a human psyche, which is your mind, right? When you have thoughts, the way you see reality, the way you believe about the thoughts, the way you have beliefs about yourself and of the world and other people is from your mind. Your mind has roughly 2 parts, okay? Sometimes people say 3, right? Sigmund Freud said there was the unconscious, the preconscious, and the conscious mind, right? Modern psychology, we understand just basically 2 parts, the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, right? Your conscious mind is everything that you can will, okay? You think of something, you see a dog, you're like, oh, I see a dog, right? That's your conscious mind. That's where the thoughts can come in, right? Your unconscious mind is where things are stored that you're not aware of. That's why they're unconscious, okay? This includes a lot of things like schemas or beliefs. This includes things like, behaviors which come from those beliefs. And then also like your shadow resides there too, if you wanted to get more into the, shadow work and like, psychological healing side of things. But your thoughts are coming from a schema, which is basically like a blueprint. You think of like a schematic for like a ship or something. Your thoughts come from these schemas. You have multiple schemas in your mind within the unconscious, right? That then when something happens, that schema has like a blueprint of how you're going to see life. So you have a schema, for example, you have a schema for relationships, let's say. And you might say like relationships are hard. You're a guy, you might say women are crazy. That's most likely, it is not true, but because you believe and you have that schema of how these things work, those beliefs are formed around that schema, right? They're contained within that schema. And you've had that formed from usually childhood, right? Your parents, divorced, always fighting, right? You build a schema in your head how you structure certain things, relationships, and then you attach beliefs to that, right? Relationships don't work. Or other more devastating stuff, I have to be, more domineering and controlling relationships so they don't take my power away, right? Or it's like, all these different things. And so we need to know that like, these thoughts and these beliefs are coming from your unconscious mind and then influencing your mind without you really even noticing sometimes. They're very automatic. So then what we need to do is look at the schemas of how you view life. Take business in this example, right? Entrepreneurship. I can't do that. I'm not good enough. Okay? Why do you have that schema? Right? Usually because your parents taught you that, or you just don't believe in yourself, right? Or you have some sort of belief, right? And then that creates the behavior here, which is, I can't be an entrepreneur because I'm not smart enough, right? And so your behavior is, I'm not going to do that, right? Another example could be like, more relationship wise, right? You could be like, I don't like people and I don't want to be in a relationship. Or you could say like, I'm too damaged to be in a relationship. So that creates your behavior. We see how these schemas create our behavior. So what we need to do for these limiting beliefs is challenge them, right? This is a structure that can be rebuilt, okay? So we need to challenge those thoughts, those limiting beliefs with evidence, counter evidence, and take action in spite of them, right? You need to be able to have a certain level of self-awareness to see, okay, I have a limiting belief here, right? You know, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I think this, I think that, right? You can literally sit down, write it down. I think this, I think that. And how are those stopping you? Look at those limiting beliefs, right? And then try to figure out how can you challenge those thoughts with evidence. Another great example. I want to be an entrepreneur. Let's say you want to be an entrepreneur and your belief is like, I'm not smart enough, or, you know, I can't do that for some reason. And so then you challenge that. You say, okay, well, is there anybody, and this is a funny way to do it. If it is, you say, is there anybody who's dumb and has become a successful entrepreneur? You can do that. You can find that. You can go look for that evidence. And, you know, not to cast anything at anybody, but you can find a lot of examples of like people who, you know, didn't go to college or the traditional whatever, right? Or, you know, had a tough upbringing or didn't look like they have any prospects, but they still managed to become super successful and super wealthy, right? And then you learn, okay, this belief is flawed because anybody can become an entrepreneur when they have the right skills, which is action and commitment, by the way. Usually action is like a lot of it. So you want to challenge those thoughts, because those limiting beliefs, you're going to have a bundle of them, right? Especially in our society, you're going to have a bundle of limiting beliefs from your childhood, from society. And you want to be able to look at those things as they prop up from the unconscious, right? See them in the moment, saying, you know, the thought pops into your head, oh, I can't do that. Okay, notice that in the moment, right? Get a journal, notice these thoughts in the moment as you go throughout your day, write them down, right? And challenge them in that moment. They don't need to be true, right? But as long as you just let them go and you let the schema propagate a thought, right? And a behavior from that ingrained belief you have, core belief, core schema, right? As long as you allow that to continue to run automatically, you're never going to be able to transcend where you are right now and go to where you want to go. So that's number one, is limiting beliefs and mindset. Number two here, discipline and commitment. Very important, right? Everybody, you'll look anywhere on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere. People are always asking, how do I have discipline? I'm not disciplined. I'm lazy. I can't bring myself to do these things. Boom and a bam, okay? So discipline and commitment are very important for any success or growth you want to have in life. But the truth of the matter is, discipline is a skill, okay? Discipline is a skill that can be built through habits. And so we want to move away from like, how do I find discipline, to like, how do I build it? Okay, because it can be built as a skill, and everybody's gonna be different. Just like some people are short, some people are tall, whatever it is, you're gonna be a little bit different. Some people are like, you know, from the outget, they're kind of a little more disciplined and like, you know, type A or whatever. But anybody can build discipline, right? So you gotta work from where you're working at, from where you're starting at. So we start by knowing that discipline is a skill, okay? And it's gonna be built through habits. So what you wanna do is you wanna stack micro habits to build discipline, to show yourself that you can be disciplined, right? Again, everything starts small. Right? For me, you know, I was always someone who was like, you could say lazy, right? I don't like to waste energy. You could also say it that way. But basically, I lived a life where it's like, I didn't really do a lot of like intense structure, or like, you know, I wasn't very disciplined. And so what I learned over the past few years now, such that I have a lot of discipline and I can do a lot of things, is that was found by me building small habits, when I discovered by building those habits that they were giving me little like steps, little stepstones of discipline, right? It started out with exercising, right? I wanted to exercise more, strength training, lifting, right? So I started doing that, you know, multiple times a week, right? And that was a habit that I did consistently that built discipline, because I showed up and I proved to myself that I could do something habitually over a long period of time, right? So you want to start stacking these small habits to build discipline in your life, build the skill of discipline. Don't try and, you know, you wait for, you know, this also plays into like motivation. Don't wait for motivation. Motivation is one of those things, you know, it's like a battery or like a gas tank, right? It's like your motivation waxes and wanes. You're not always going to have motivation. So you can't rely on motivation to deliver you where you need to be in your life, right? You have to be able to build some discipline here. And so I encourage you today or the week, whatever works better for you, start building some small micro habits that you can do to build discipline, right? Maybe you start an exercise regimen. Maybe you just simply show up for a project that you want to start and you just say, I'm going to show up every day for 10 minutes. That's it, 10 minutes. Again, so you can start small. You don't need to do grand gestures of like, I'm going to go to the gym for like 3 hours every day. It's like, you can start small. You don't have to be, this is a skill you build, just like strength training. You start with smaller weights, you work your way up. So start building some habits, say 3 maybe, and start doing those to build your discipline, right? Things you don't maybe want to do or that's difficult, but that you set small habits to continue to do and build your skill of discipline, okay? That's number 1 there. Then we move to this little circle here. So this is another important part of discipline and commitment, specifically commitment, right? Commitment is basically being able to commit to something. I know it's shocking, still very simple, but this is basically like, you want to succeed at anything. Success doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come in a month. It even rarely comes in a year. It comes through long-term action, right? And that long-term action, coupled with the discipline, requires some commitment to be like, I'm going to choose this and I'm going to stick in it for the long haul, even when it's boring, even when it's tough, even when it's difficult. And I'm going to believe that I will succeed even through those tough periods, right? And so part of the thing that helps with this level of commitment is knowing what you control and what you don't control. You can see an example of this in, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a good book. I recommend you read it. You can also see this in philosophy, in Stoic philosophy, with the dichotomy of control, which basically just says, we have this dichotomy. We have 2 sides, contrasting sides of what we control, what you control, which is usually like your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, right? And then you have what you don't control, which is things like the weather, which is things like, something happening to a family member, right? A health issue, something like you're getting, fired from your job. You can't control these things. So it's important with this to be able to have the understanding that you should focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. Only focus on taking action and building discipline and having commitment in the things you can control, right? So that long term, you have that commitment. I'm just going to show up. Here's your template. I'm going to show up every day, and I'm going to have discipline that I've built from habits, and I'm going to have commitment because I want to do this thing, and I'm going to commit for a long time. Maybe it's a month, maybe it's a year. If it's bigger, you're going to say, this is my life. And you're going to focus on taking action in what you control only. Don't worry about what you can't control. Don't worry about, is this going to work out? Am I going to fail? Are people going to laugh at me? Am I on the right path? Don't worry about that. Take action. And when you build momentum, when you take action, when you move through life, things fall into place, things happen, and you discover things. So you always want to be focusing on, for your commitment in particular as well, what you can control, right? Commit to what you can control. Don't commit to what you can't control. And this also brings us back to the final topic here, which is action is greater than perfection or planning. Action will always win over perfection and planning, right? It's one of the things I learned as well. It's like, I was always someone who was a perfectionist. I was always trying to overanalyze things. I was always trying to make sure that when I got into something, I had it, right? I was good. I wasn't going to fail. This was the right path. But understand that if you have that as well, that level of perfectionism, it keeps you stuck, because now you're spending a month trying to research to get the right idea, the right business model, the right job, whatever, the right relationship, the right whatever. Don't wait for the right moment. Take the action in the moment now. That is what will bring you to success. And that is what will build you momentum, right? Because action is where you learn the majority of what you need to learn. You don't learn action from planning. You learn information from studying and researching, but you're never going to gain that real, true, raw wisdom and street smart, you could say, without taking action. The action is where you learn that. And so really in the simplest sense, you want to be action first. You want to have an action first mindset, meaning you want to try to, whatever you're doing, try to take as action as quickly as possible, right? You want to get in there and you just show up. You're just like, You don't even know what the hell's going on. You're like naked. You have like this like rudimentary tool. You just get in there. You're like, we don't know what's going on, but I'm getting in there. And that's what you want to have. You want to have action over perfection and planning. I encourage you to just start taking action today. Whatever you can do, smallest action, right? Because again, one of the things with action as well and with perfectionism and over planning is like, we often build it in our head. We often build how difficult something is going to be in our head. We think it's going to be more difficult before we do it. And because of that, we try to overplan. We try to make it perfect, the conditions perfect. And it just puts fear and anxiety into us of like, this is what if this is going to be, you overthink everything and it's going to be like, what if this fails, right? And so we need to like cut out that rumination part and just get right into it. You know, I'll give you another example from my life. So I've been creating content here for a few months now, I think. And one of the things that stopped me from getting into it was I was afraid, right? 100%. I had anxiety. I was afraid. I was like, you know, what are people going to think of me? What is this going to be like? I don't know how to talk, right? That kind of stuff. And once I started posting, in particular with TikTok, right? Once I made the first video, I was like, okay, I can do this. It's, you know, I'm not great at it yet, but I can do it. And then I made the second video and then the third. And then by, you know, video 30, you know, I'm good with TikToks now. I know how to make TikToks. It's the same thing. Anything you want to do, you know, everybody's, you know, kind of crappy at the first pass, right? You know, everybody sucks when they begin, but you know, that's going to be part of the process, right? And that's really the biggest hurdle to get over is that first step. Always it's the first step. And so I encourage you to keep that in the back of your mind. It's like the first step is always the hardest, but the quicker I can get that over with, the quicker I can make progress. So get out there, whatever small step you can take. It doesn't have to be a big step. You don't have to have like 50% of it done in that first step. Just do like 1% of whatever you want to do, right? Do you want to start a business? Start, you know, talking to business people, or, you know, go to your city hall or whatever, or your town center and talk to people about what it's like to establish maybe like an LLC, whatever it is, right? If you want to date or find more friends or whatever it is, right? Go out and like start small, right? Start with something small. Greetings, right? Let me master greetings, right? Small talk. Let me master small talk, right? Compliments. Let me master compliments. Start small, right? But take that action first. So very important. So this is pillar number 2, which is having discipline and commitment, and also to some degree action. And then pillar number 3 here is purpose. Okay. Another great thing, just like discipline, that people are always asking about on the internet, which is like, how do I find my purpose? What is my purpose? I feel lost in life. I feel directionless. I feel purposeless, right? Nothing is good, right? I'm burnt out, all that kind of, you know, intense stuff. And the first truth here is that, you know, purpose is built through action, right? Purpose is rarely found. Purpose really just like comes to you and smacks you in the face and like, here's your purpose. You know, rarely does that happen. Really, it's your purpose is built through action. You have to find what you like. You have to find what matters to you, and you have to build it through action. And so the first step is knowing is like, you know, you're going to build purpose by doing things, trying things out, figuring things out, and then also like, you know, bumping into life a little bit, right? That's 100% okay. And it's also okay to not have your purpose in life. Not everybody needs to know their purpose at every point in their life, but you can know that by taking action, you will find and come across things that gives you a sense of purpose. And so number 1 there is to understand that purpose is built through action, right? It doesn't come to you just randomly, right? And then number 2 here is know what you want and do not want, okay? Very important for purpose as well, because purpose is like, you know, what is purpose? Purpose is like you feel that you're doing something that matters, whether it matters to you in your life on a grand scheme, or you feel it matters, you know, collectively with the community. You feel like you have a purpose or a meaning in life, right? And so the first part of that is knowing what you want. This is very important because your purpose is going to be meaning made through you. So you have to know what you want and what you do not want. I mean, clearly know that, like have it written down. What do you want out of life? Do you want to be known by so many people? Or do you want to live in a comfortable, if you want to live off grid on a piece of land away from people where you can just live calmly in nature and nourish your soul, right? What do you want? You have to know that. So important. And also what you do not want, right? Do you not want to be the center of attention? Does that stuff drain you? You're more of an introvert, right? Or do you want to be out there, people, whole bunch of friends, right? In the bar, right? All this kind of stuff, bottle service, all that kind of stuff. What do you want? What do you not want? Important to know that for finding your purpose and building it, right? Through action. And then thirdly, is just to embody self-authorship, right? Which is, not letting society or other people tell you how to live your life, okay? I'll be honest with you, friend, this is one of the biggest things that individuals need to discover right now in the time that we're living, is that we need to stop giving authorship of our life up to other people and to society, to external forces. This is one of the biggest problems when it comes to like purpose and burnout and things like that. It's like people doing things because they think they need to do them, or because they're listening to what the world is telling them that they need to do, right? You need to be like this. You need to be like that, right? And you don't. You need to be how you want to be. This is your life, right? We're born one day, we die another. What do you want to do in your life? This is very important. So you have to embody self-authorship of like your life, your path. What are you paving? What path are you carving in this world, right? Not what path are you following that society is paving for you and telling you to walk down. What do you want, right? Again, for another example from my life, from my entrepreneur friends out there, one of the things I had to discover is that, I went through life, just listening to what people tell me to do. With college and all that kind of stuff, I was like, just tell me what to do. I don't want to deal with any of this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? And then I had to reach a point where that was shattered. After I graduated college and all this kind of, dark stuff started happening, I had to shatter that and be like, you know what? The world doesn't give a fuck about me. The world's nobody's going to come save me. Nobody's going to give me a hand. Nobody's going to give me guidance because they don't know the person that I am inside, right? And so I had to, in that moment, that when the veil shattered, I had to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? And that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And so it's very important, friend, that when you are looking for your purpose, when you are trying to find a path for yourself, you have to know, or you have to be able to embody self-authorship. If everybody abandons you, if everybody laughs at you, if everybody's telling you you're dumb and you don't know what the hell you're doing, good. But you need to know that you are doing the thing that matters to you. This is your path. This is your life. This is your journey. No matter what it is, go out there and try as many things as you can. Try the best that you can. Follow your heart. Understand that you will find these things. You'll find your purpose. You'll find the things that you enjoy. You'll find your path by, again, taking action, right? Building it through action, knowing what you want and do not want, which you can also discover by taking action a little bit. And also embodying self-authorship, meaning willing to go down your own path, even when everybody else is telling you, no, dude, that's not it. Because it's your path and you have to figure that out. You have to trust your heart, follow your gut, listen to your instincts, your intuition. Okay. And so that's it. Those are the 3 pillars there that I would give you for success, for greatness, right? Everything I've read, everything I've studied, everything I've experienced can be boiled down to these 3 pillars. This is all the growth that I've had. This is all the growth that many people have, right? You can look at any of these successful people. They've gone through these lessons. And so I implore you, friend, I encourage you to consider each of these in your own time, in your own way, right? Journal about them, take action to experiment with them, and just try to consider a different perspective, right? Try to consider change, because really at the end of the day, self-transformation and evolution begins with awareness and then the willingness to try different things, right? This is where the growth mindset comes from. So embody that growth mindset. But that's it. I wish you well on your journey. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, leave a comment below, right? I'd love to hear your opinions. Any feedback is highly appreciated, always. And that's it for today. Have a nice day, my friend.